Hi, I'm Annie Botticelli, and welcome to my July 2019 horoscope report for you. It is my intention for this video to give you the information that I believe that you need to make this the best month possible and learn a little astrology while you're at it. Definitely go to my website, anniehelpsyou.com, where I have a very extensive astrology blog, including blogs on the new and full moons and how best to use those power periods. If you are interested in learning astrology and you resonate with how I teach, check out my astrology apprenticeship program, also at anniehelpsyou.com. Definitely check out my new book, that has become a beautiful bedside companion and purse-toting companion for my fellow spiritual seekers, an Amazon bestseller, Radical Prayer, Transform Your Life and the World in 28 Days. And you can see that at radicalprayerbook.com. So what do we have in store for you this month? I'm going to go into lots of details. Let's check them out now. Hello, Taurus friends. Welcome to my July 2019 horoscope report for you. I love, love, love this month for Tauruses. There are so many wonderful aspects that are occurring in the stars to your Taurus placements. We've got the transiting North Node, which helps you to get on track with your highest destiny, making a beautiful angle to your placements. We've got the Sun, adding creativity and zest and vitality and energy. We've got Venus making kisses, love, beauty, and money. We've got the solar eclipse making beautiful angles to Taurus energy this month. So many things going on. Plus, we've got a lot of surprises coming from the eclipses, a lot of surprises coming from Uranus, still bringing these jaw-dropping changes and things coming out of the blue. The eclipses and the Uranus energies tend to be very similar in the way that they can just bring surprises that all of a sudden change your trajectory. So you're like moving along in a certain way and things seem very certain. Then all of a sudden eclipse or Uranus comes in and it's like, wow, now I'm going on this track. So definitely as a sister video to this video, watch my June horoscope, because in that one I go into lots of details about where the eclipses are hitting for you and what that could mean. But there are so many other things to cover, as you will soon see, that is going on this month, and pretty much all of it, with the exception of some little tweaking kind of pinging thing that we'll get into, pretty much all of it is overwhelmingly positive for Taurus energies. So the flow of the rest of the video will be this. I will drop the charts in. I've also made a special grid. I've never done this before, but for Taurus placements that I know like organization and having things a little bit streamlined, I made a nice grid for early, middle, and late degree placements to show you the overlap of how the planetary transits are affecting each of the placements. And then I'll give you a Mercury Retrograde video. The whole month is covered in Mercury Retrograde. I think this will be a very positive thing overall for Taurus placements because of the angle that it's making most of the time to you. And there is a little bit of pinging there going on with Leo. Leo energy is making an awkward angle, just a slight bit compared to all this other water energy though. And it will be asking many of you to be seen. It will be asking many of you to go a little bit out of your comfort zone in order to reach your objectives. So I'm going to show you the charts, go into those details, show you Mercury Retrograde tutorial. Then you'll see me back on the screen and I'll give you all the information about the general transits that I think are most important for you to know for this month. So let's check out the charts now. Okay, so I'm going to break this down for you and give you lots of details about the things that I see that will be affecting you this month and beyond. First, we have to make sure you know where you are in the Taurus division. In each sign, there are 30 degrees, and they're broken down into 3 sections, early, middle, and late. So the first 10 degrees, middle 10 degrees, second or last 10 degrees. So basically, April born are early Taurus or 0 to 9 degrees. Middle Taurus around May 1st through 10th or 10 to 19, and late around May 11th through the rest of the sign or 20 to 29 degrees. Also, it is very important to note that you may have more placements in Taurus than you are watching for. Okay, so this report is accurate for Taurus rising, Taurus sun, and Taurus moon. But I do think it's a great idea for you to run a free birth chart online. Somewhere you can just do a search for that, run a free birth chart, and look to see if you have any other placements in Taurus than the ones you think you have, if you're not familiar with your chart. Because when we talk about planets in the sky making aspects to your Taurus placement. If you have more than one Taurus placement that you were not aware of, then the chance of interactions for the planetary angles could be increased. So you could go deeper into your chart and with how these things can affect you if you know that information. Okay, so the first thing that I want to do is let you know there is a lot of sweetness, as I just told you in the summary. The aspects this month for you are much better compared to some of the other placements because we have a lot going on in water. So all the water placements are making favorable, in this case it's mostly Cancer stuff here, so they're making 60-degree angles to your placements, which I'm going to go into detail about that. So this is a sweet angle for you. Something else to know about a lot of what we're going to talk about is 60-degree angles tend to give you, I call it ingredients on a counter. Okay, so there's the pie shell, there's the cherries, and you can make a pie because the aspect is giving you these ingredients. But if you leave the kitchen with the ingredients on the counter and come back in and say, "Where's my pie?" you could get disappointed because you might have to do something with what comes to you. Now also note that in this month of full-on retrograde with these two intense eclipses, you might not know exactly what you're supposed to do, you know, because there might be a lack of clarity, or you might just do some temporary things, or you know, make a bridge agreement or a temporary agreement. But there are going to be ingredients to make something, and you will have to be very discerning and stay in tune to the synchronicities to see exactly what that would be. Definitely watch my June report for you as a sister companion to this reading, because in that video I go into massive detail about where the eclipses are hitting for you exactly and what I have seen that look like. Because it was so much to cover, and because we do often feel eclipses, especially in the month or so before the actual eclipses, that June was a good time to let you know about those potentials. But everything that we said in June about those eclipse potentials are very much in effect this month, as we do have the eclipses actually happening this month. Okay, so the first thing I want to just show you visually, I'm using the late degree, but this is true for all of you. We're going to have a massive amount of energy in Cancer. And this Mars is going out, so that's not really happening. But this Venus is about to go there. So we're going to have all of this energy in Cancer, plus the new moon solar eclipse at 10 degrees. Plus we've got Uranus in Taurus, and that is making a ruckus. So I'm going to do something different than I've done before, and I'm going to make a little grid for early, middle, and late degree placements to help you see the effects better. Okay, so early, middle, late. If you're not sure where you are in this, you can just, you know, rewind back to where I let you know what's happening. For you all, Uranus is a major hitter. Uranus is moving through Taurus. So those of you in the early division, you either have had, are having now, or are feeling the whispers about to have Uranus cross over your Taurus placement. And that brings surprises, jostling, transformation, things out of the blue. It can bring unpleasant surprises, but it can bring wonderful surprises. But it can be very volatile, it can be very uncertain, and if you didn't know what was going on, you might be like, what is happening? So what could be happening for you is Uranus. And this is a very long-term transit. So it's dancing between Uranus this year is playing between 2 and 6 degrees. It was at earlier degrees before this time, but for the rest of the year, we've got between 2 and 6 degrees. Okay, so that means for you all in the early placements, basically from 0 to 10 or 11, Uranus is a heavy hitter for you this year. And with a special concentration on 2 to 6 degrees. But basically all of you early born, so April born Tauruses. All right, so you've got that going on. Okay, so the next thing that's going to be true for early, but is also going to be true for middle and late, So all Taurus placements will see this month kisses. It's my little lips. Whoops, a little weird there. All right. They do not look like lips at all, but let's see. There we go. Kisses from Venus for early, middle, and late degrees, because Venus is going to move from 0 to 29 degrees, and during that time, using the middle degree chart, but this is true for all of you, as Venus moves through all these Cancer degrees, it's going to make these 60-degree angles. Okay, so Venus rules love, beauty, and money. So the chance for self-esteem boosts, recognition, money, something with your finances, something with your romance, investments, things like that, can have extra kisses this month from Venus. Okay. The middle degree placements are getting those 60-degree kisses from the sun. Okay, and even like the last couple of degrees of early will feel this month. The rest of you early degree placements, you got your sun kisses in June. Okay, but in July, the sun is going to come and make 60-degree angles to all of those placements. So all the middle are going to get those, and all the late sun kisses for there. Okay, so we've got Venus for all of you. We've got the sun in this month for middle and late, but if you're watching in June, then you have sun kisses. And the sun has to do with your creativity, your vital force, your health, your vibrance. Relationships with male energy can also come under that sometimes. Artistic expression. Anything that makes you burn bright with creativity. For you late degree placements, you're going to have extra kisses from Mercury. Now, for the rest of you all, you would have had this before July. Okay, so pre-July, that these kisses would have come for you. Everybody's going to get them. It's just a matter of time when it's staggered. Okay, so as Mercury goes into retrograde, late degree people are going to have extra boosts from Mercury this month, because Mercury is going to cross over and make those 60-degree angles. Then it's going to go in retrograde and cross back over your beautiful angles with your placement, and then it's going to cross back over. Now, the first part of this crossing over that would have happened in June, the first crossover, but then two of these are going to be staggered. Okay, so your first pass will be in June, late degree placements, then the second pass will be in July, and then the third pass will be in August. Okay, so over those 3 months, you have these extra kisses. Now, you early and middle degree, Mercury will have one pass, and that would have happened in June. Okay, but still, kisses nonetheless. And Mercury has to do with communication, expression. You know, some creative faculties can have a crossover here between the sun. You know, Mercury is how you express yourself. It could be news, you know, things related to news and events coming into your life. It can have to do with writing, speaking, editing, anything like that. Or just your personal expression, feeling heard, finding your voice. Middle degree friends, you have been having, or actually this month you will be having, the North Node making those beautiful 60-degree angles with your placement. North Node has to do with your highest expression in this lifetime. So basically, May through November, the North Node is going to be working for you, which I'm going to talk more about. Prior to May, the North Node was working the later degree placements. And I know this seems backwards because usually planets move forward, but the North Node is moving backwards. So this North Node focus with these angles happened prior to May for late degree. They're happening from May to November for middle degree. And then after November, or into November, it will start for early. So this is a major force that's working to get you on your highest path. The things you're supposed to do with your life, your dharma, your life purpose, you know, feeling like you're on track. those are the kind of things that you'll have extra opportunities when you're getting these kisses from this transiting North Node. The early and middle will have a special boost from the solar eclipse. So again, you have to watch the June report to see like where the eclipse is going to hit for you and what it could mean. But just know that from the angle perspective, it's happening at 10 degrees of Cancer. So between 5 degrees and 10 degrees, those, any of you, so, you know, part of the early, probably like the last 5 days of April or 5 to 10 degrees, or the first 5 days of May or 10 to 15 degrees, you all will have the most positive boost from the solar eclipse that happens on July 2nd, but you can get news and events from that over a very long time before and after. So there's extra intensity there for you all in a positive way. Most of the things happening this month are of major positive potential for Tauruses. That lunar eclipse on July 16th, that's at 24 degrees of Capricorn, that's where you late friends will really have some extra positive boosts. So basically, very end of the middle degree through pretty much all the late degree placements, you're going to have that 24 degrees of Cap eclipse make a trine, the most favorable angle in all of astrology. And the trines often are different than the 60-degree angles, which is mostly what we've been talking about here, because they often bring sweet things regardless of what you do. Now, if you do something with them, you can bring them even further, but for you late degree friends, this lunar eclipse, which even though it's on the 16th, you could be feeling this even as early as May, and you can feel it like, you know, even all of July into August or even September. This is a long-term story, which I go into a lot of details about that. You really need to watch the June report too. But so you all have an extra boost there. Also, late degree friends, since Pluto is dancing around the 22 back to 21, so it's kind of in that area. Pluto is lurking around there. That again is making a trine. So any of the placements, let me just reverse this so it's not confusing. So like 21, 22. So even up to 27 or more degrees, pretty much all the late degree people. And some of the middle degree people, as we get back to around 16 degrees for that influence. You notice what I'm doing with this is 5 degrees before or after. It's just kind of an orb, a general orb that we can use to say, okay, it's going to be strongest for where the actual degree is, and then the degrees before and after will feel it very strongly. Okay, so late, middle, and all late are getting sweet trines from Pluto. So it's really, really sweet. So the one thing that we have to watch out for is Mars, and then this is going to, you know, get stronger as we get into August, the storyline I'm about to give you, and we'll give it this in red here. So the early and middle degree placements. Okay, you've got Mars this month, and then for you late degree, this will be August that this will happen. Mars is going to get into Leo, and that's going to make a challenging 90-degree angle for you. And what I see that as is Leo energy is very much limelight. It's being seen, it's being out in front of people, it's, you know, public expression, just the kind of things that Taurus energy, that energy isn't consistent with Taurus. Taurus likes to work hard. They're not trying, you know, they're not trying to make a show of things unless you have other placements in your chart that have these other qualities. But the pure Taurian expression isn't about everybody looking at you and everybody focused on you and everybody, you know, seeing you. So there might be a little bit of a force to kind of put yourself out there, and that will feel awkward from this square angle, unless you have something else that this jives within your chart that would lighten it or make it easier. You know, July and August, you're probably going to be asked to stretch yourself. Early, middle, more in July, and then late in August. As of the last week of the month, the sun is going to move here for the early. And you're going to have that similar square. Like, okay, you want to create something, you want to get somewhere, you want to reach your goals, you're going to have to get a little bit uncomfortable. And then as we get into August, the middle and late will feel this sun square. In August, Venus is going to come and do the same thing. So I just want to let you know of this theme that's starting in July that's going to continue into August, of this kind of awkwardness that's pushing you. And this could have to do with those 60-degree angles, like I told you. Like, here are some opportunities, but now you have to do something with them. You have to take action. And what you might have to do might put you in the red zone where it feels uncomfortable. But overall, super positive potentials for Taurus this month. I love it. We will be very heavy with emotion, drama, endings, beginnings. From the eclipses, there will be a lot of uncertainty because of the Mercury retrograde, but because the Mercury retrograde is making angles, in general, a nice angle to your sign, even if you're not in the late degree placement, hopefully that will be a little bit softer on you. All of you will hopefully experience that Mercury retrograde in a little, a sweeter way, like sweet things coming from the past back for you. Okay, so now I'm going to drop in the Mercury retrograde tutorial. And then after that, you'll see me back on the screen, and I'll talk about the general transits that will absolutely be affecting you, my favorite days of the month, things to note, and other details that I think you need to know about the month. You may be tempted to skip the Mercury retrograde video because a lot of people are like, I don't want to hear about Mercury retrograde. But I definitely suggest that you watch it because we spend half of our lives in Mercury retrograde. So... okay, so Mercury retrograde up next, general transit video, and bye for now. Hi, this is going to be a quick tutorial of the energy of Mercury as it relates to the retrograde cycle and the things to keep in mind that are most important to hold in your consciousness as we go through this phase. So the first thing to know is that Mercury is retrograde or in its shadow, pre or post shadow period, for about half of the year. So half of our lives we are in this. That's why it's really important to understand it. The second thing to know is that Mercury is retrograde for 3-ish weeks at a time, and there's about a 2-ish week before and after shadow transit. So the pre-transit shadow period and the post shadow transit period. So all in all, it's about a 7-ish week process. So it is kind of long at a time. And the implications of Mercury retrograde are very strongly seen in this pre-shadow period and especially in the first part of this post-shadow period. And then they tend to linger and just sort of wear off towards the end of that post-shadow period. Mercury rules communication and mobility, so anything involving speaking, writing, communicating, publishing, your devices that you use for communicating, your phones, computers, things like that, your cars, vehicles, walking, your mobility, your capacity to be mobile, your legs, the things that make you able to be mobile. If someone's in a wheelchair, their wheelchair would be there, or whatever it is that is related to your personal mobility. One thing to note as I describe the rest of this is that for people who are born with Mercury retrograde at birth, sometimes they feel the opposite effects of what everybody else feels during a Mercury retrograde period, and that things can flow even better for them during a Mercury retrograde period than when Mercury is direct. So if you have come to notice that, it may be because you have Mercury retrograde at birth. And it also may mean that you have even if you don't officially have Mercury retrograde, and this is definitely a way more technical thing for you to have to try to figure out, but if Mercury was in a pre or post shadow period close to the retrograde, you could experience having Mercury retrograde from the birth perspective, even though it wouldn't as readily show up on your chart. So that's an important thing to note as well. Okay, so what tends to happen when Mercury's in retrograde is that there are changes to plans. There is uncertainty or confusion about what direction to take. There are plans that were made that are called into question. They may turn out to work out, but they get called into question. Things get called into question. Relationships get called into question. The use of devices and transportation gets called into question. Plans get called into question. And then sometimes they'll work out and sometimes they won't. But this calling into question is a typical Mercury retrograde thing. The topics of travel will often come up, and this can be a fine time for travel. There is a misconception that you shouldn't travel during Mercury retrograde. That's not true. You just have to be more aware because plans tend to change. Gates tend to change at the last minute. Issues with a car tend to come up if you're on a road trip, if you haven't, gotten everything checked out first or whatever, or even sometimes if you did. Impediments to travel changes. When you're making agreements, Mercury also rules agreements. So if you're agreeing to something, the odds are that you're going to change what you're agreeing to. So it doesn't lend itself as well for long-term or rigid agreements. There are exceptions. If you're in there, don't worry. There are exceptions. But if you are negotiating during Mercury retrograde, you're either not seeing the whole picture, someone is purposely or inadvertently hiding something from you, or there are things that are coming that you're not aware of that are going to change how you can interact in the agreement that you've made. So in general, it is a good idea to be flexible. Flexible, temporary bridge agreements are like the theme that I like to put out there to best use this energy. Let's say you have to negotiate something or you're agreeing to something, and if it's minor or low stakes, you don't have to worry as much. It's the big things, that are more important. But there could be some minor things where it would be helpful to know this. Okay, so keep your flexibility. Try to make a interim or bridge agreement. So like, for instance, let's say you're trying to get a tenant in a house or in a professional space, and Mercury's in retrograde. Something like a month to month, totally awesome to embark on in a Mercury retrograde because you can get out of it. Something like a 3-month lease or even 3 to 6 months, something short term. You can make something for a month and then renegotiate when the planets are more clear, the energy is more clear. So those are ways that I like to deal with the Mercury retrograde. And it's definitely a good time to be aware that you might have things happen to your cars and phones and stuff. In general, I don't love this time as the best time to get a new device or car unless you can help it, or unless it's a short-term or interim device. Like, let's say you get a temporary phone to bridge you over something, that's more appropriate. Or you get a car that you plan to have for 3 to 6 months, or something like that. But for things that you're hoping to keep long-term, the retrogrades tend to make it shorter term, and that's typical. Another place to be careful is launches. Big, awesome, life-changing, once-in-a-lifetime launches are not the ones you want to have when Mercury is in retro. However, let's say you're a teacher and you teach classes twice a year, and Mercury retrograde, is the time for your re-enrollment. Re-enrollment is much better supported. But do also expect that when you have launches in a Mercury retrograde cycle, that more people are going to be wishy-washy, and there's more of a chance for people that have joined that are going to leave the class. So, it's not always a reliable time frame for trying to get people to commit to things, depending on what the nature of it is. It's hard. Commitments get a little bit more difficult. So basically, the things to remember for Mercury retrograde is the flexibility, be extra careful, check your plans, your travel plans and other things and documents and agreements extra carefully. And then anything that has the prefix re, pretty much, there's going to be exceptions to this, but rejuvenation, redoing, re-editing, rethinking, reconsidering, even rest. It's a good time to rest. Anything like that where you're like going back over something is better indicated than something brand new, if possible, unless the new thing is short term or a bridge or something you consider doing, like, oh, I've always wanted to try that. Maybe I'll take that class, and the class is, 6 months or whatever. That can be fine. What we really need to have caution with is the bigger things and the things that are higher stakes, etc. Mercury retrograde can be an amazing time. You can get lots of this stuff done, inspiration from the past, tying up loose ends from the past, and preparing for a nice fertile ground for future wonderful things. I'm calling the theme of July 2019 for all signs, 3 times the manifestation power, bold new directions, and time to be brave. It's always interesting when we have a transit like Mercury retrograde that brings this eye to the past, coinciding with so much potential for new energy. So we've got 2 intense eclipses this month, plus 2 new moons this month. Whenever we have a month with 2 new moons, it opens up more potentials for brilliant new paths, and the same thing with the eclipses. But this is happening all under the cover of this Mercury retrograde. So that means that themes from the past, things worked on in the past, contacts from the past, plans from the past, are all going to factor in very heavily to the new opportunities that come. So we talked at length about Mercury retrograde and where that hit in your chart or will hit in your chart, and also what the implications are there. So we're going to go into some additional things to know about this month. The eclipses obviously are bringing massive changes. The transits this month are pretty equal as far as sweet or challenging, and a lot of them could just really go either way. So when we have a situation where there's a transit that's occurring and someone can either manifest something positive or something challenging from it, it really makes it more important for us to watch how we're looking at things. The perspective that we have on life, the perspective that we have on everything, colors, changes, effects, how we experience things. So the more you can be well rested and positive can help you to frame the energies that come in. And the more present you can be emotionally is also going to flavor this month, because with the eclipses and with the Cancer energies and even with the retrograde energies, there's a massive amount of emotion this month. High emotional tides this month, for better and worse. So amazing culminations, things that you've been hoping for forever, can just come to you at this time. I always think about the eclipse time as the vision of the spider with the web. You've spent all this time until July weaving this beautiful web. And sometimes those webs can get really big. I think about the webs I've seen like in the rainforest in Costa Rica, like, taller than a person, these gigantic webs. And of course the spiders that go along with them are pretty big too. But in any case, this web that you've created, now the eclipse time and the retrograde time are both times to just sit back and see what food comes to you. It's not the best time for initiating something huge, although sometimes chance or other things force it to happen that way. But the more you can be flexible, be relaxed, be well rested, not be super intent on pushing an agenda, being flexible, the more you can observe what is coming to you so that you can strike or take in according to what feels the best with the options that come to you. It's a fine time for research, but it's not the best time necessarily to try to push something to happen. It's more of an acceptance of what's coming in and what you're going to do with it. A lot of the eclipse news and changes may have already taken place before the actual eclipses, which occur this month. So you may already be steeped in, rolling around in, coping with, for better and worse, the eclipse changes. So the Cancer energy is bringing in a lot of emotion, a lot of tilt towards the energy of home, family, housing, home projects, things involving childhood psychology, upbringing, having to take some steps backwards in order to be able to take future steps forward. But there's also a coinciding energy of Leo. And Leo is going to give us the audacity to do something with the opportunities that come to us. Also a zest and a passion and creative expression. So in general, new moons and full moons have power for positive changes and things coming to a head, things coming out into the open, things coming to manifestation. When we have eclipses an eclipse on a new moon or a full moon, it gives us 3 times the manifestation power. So 3 times the new beginnings, 3 times the drama or culmination or, things coming to a head. So it's just definitely a powerful month, very, very, very intense. Intensity is another keynote of this time. As we talked about in the June horoscopes, and definitely if you haven't watched my June horoscopes, you want to do that because I cover the eclipses in detail. There's so much to talk about for this time period. I couldn't fit it all in 1 month. So in June, I go into detail and tell you exactly where the eclipses will hit for you and what manifestations you can see. So definitely rewatch that here in July, even if you watch them in June, so that you can be better poised for understanding the changes that are coming. But in general, the eclipse cycle of Cancer and Capricorn bring in lots of changes to home and family and work and your place out in the world, things with mother and father, and your maternal and paternal energies. Look back to 2009 to 2011 and 2000 to 2001. Those are the times when we experienced this Capricorn Cancer eclipse cycles in the past. So you might see patterns. And I have gotten this question, if those have been your worst times, don't worry, that's not necessarily going to happen again. It's the themes that are brought up that are common to have a continuum. So the areas of life that were a focus, those will likely be a focus at this time. And it doesn't have to manifest the same way that it did. Okay, so I'm just going to hit a couple of highlights here as certain dates to note that are my favorite or my most you have to watch out for. If you want a complete list of the aspects that are occurring and what's involved with those aspects, what planets and signs are at play, and what you can expect from those, definitely sign up for my free email newsletter at anniehelpsyou.com. You'll also get my 28-day virtual coaching program called Shine for free when you sign up for my free email newsletter. Plus, you'll get a written, detailed email newsletter a month before, just like I do the horoscopes a month before, of the dates and the aspects and what to look out for, so you have them for your planning purpose. You get those a month early. So you can see that at anniehelpsyou.com. But we'll hit some highlights here. The new moons are going to be, first the new moon and the solar eclipse, 10 degrees of Cancer, is on July 2nd. So that is a time of major intensity. I do have blogs on my website for how to make the most of each new moon and each full moon in the different signs. So definitely check those out. Mercury is going to go retrograde at 4 degrees of Leo and back to 23 degrees of Cancer. We talked about this at length, but that's occurring on July 7th, and that pretty much goes until July 31st or August 1st, depending on your time zone. The whole month is covered in Mercury retrograde. We've got some challenges to look out for as far as squares and oppositions throughout the month, and you can see the details of that in my newsletter. But one of the things that I most want you to be aware of is the full moon eclipse on July 16th. That is a lunar eclipse, 24 degrees of Capricorn, lots of intensity around that time, things coming to culmination. Be extra careful and also look out for extra rewards and things that you've worked on from the past that can come in a big way. I always try to keep that period of time a little bit light if possible. Sometimes it's unavoidable, but just be extra careful around that time. What they say about the full moons with, crazy things happening is really true. Whenever you watch these mystical shows or like Merlin or whatever, it's always a full moon when these, crazy things go on. So just take note of that and be prepared to deal with whatever comes. The second full moon, or rather the second new moon, is at 8 degrees of Leo, and that's on July 31st, or thereabouts, depending on your time zone. So the second new moon in the calendar month is a black moon, and there's extra power at this time for wishes and new beginnings. So plenty of opportunities for new beginnings this month is just chock full of them. Throughout the month, we have some challenges with Uranus, we have challenges with Pluto, we have challenges, Pluto, Uranus, kind of a theme there, Saturn. So some of the outer planets are in challenging configurations, and this can bring tests, but it doesn't have to be a be-all end-all. Often it can bring overstimulation, and that could be a major theme of this month. We could get through this month and have complete positive outcomes and no negativity at all. Certain people will have that experience. Other people will have massive drama and lots of challenges, but there's no one way it has to go. You know, it's wide open here. But understanding the element of the opposition is important because oppositions are pulling us in two different directions. So be prepared to be pulled in two different directions, and also be prepared to be overstimulated. This is going to be an incredibly busy month physically, like moving around, doing stuff. Emotionally, it will be busy. You will be handling things. You might be holding space for other people who are dealing with changes. During eclipse cycles, we'll often see people around us going through massive change, and sometimes we are too. So it's hard to tell at this point if you're going to be a space holder for other people as they go through these big changes, or if you're going to be one of the people going through the big changes, or both. Sometimes in eclipse time, we're going through these big changes and we're also holding space for other people doing that. So be prepared to be overstimulated emotionally and mentally. That's why this theme of just trying to be well rested is really important, because we know that you can't really handle things as well when you're tired. So the more you can be not tired and take your supplements and, you know, do whatever you need to for support, do your walks, do your exercise, you're going to much better be able to use the energies that are present at this time. And there are a lot of sweet aspects in between these challenging ones. So there are some nuisances, but there are lots of sweet things too. Okay, so definitely go to my website, anniehelpsyou.com. I have an extensive astrology blog plus other blogs that you can check out there on different topics. If you resonate with how I teach, you would love to learn, my astrology apprenticeship program is open for enrollment, and I will teach you everything you need to know to do astrology professionally. Or if you just want it for your self-development process, it's amazing for that as well. You can check out all the other kinds of goodies I have on my site, including subliminal recordings that I create for you to help and train your brain to the positive changes that you're trying to make. And you can also see my other professional development courses there. Definitely check out my book, Radical Prayer, Transform Your Life and the World in 28 Days. As I mentioned before, it has become a purse friend. It has become a car friend, a bedtime companion. It's just an amazing book for the spiritual seeker to really help you to use the power of word and prayer and intention to manifest the positive changes you want to see in your life. Check out my husband's website, IamHelios.com. He has amazing options now for you to use audio, subliminal, power-packed, frequency-enhanced recordings to mitigate the negative energies of transits and to enhance the positive energies of astrological transits. So we've worked together in the way of trying to figure out what resources would be best for you based on the things I see in the charts. So you can see the options for audios that can help you to maximize the transit. So you can check that out at IamHelios.com. Also, you can book a live reading at my site, AnnieHelpsYou.com, either with me or my amazing apprentice, Marilee. And you can also book sessions with my husband, B.R. Newman, at IamHelios.com. Okay, so those are the things I most have in mind for you this month. I hope you have a wonderful month, and I'll see you next month. Bye.